Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Big Blue Drew 97 here, coming at you with another discussion video. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so hopefully you'll enjoy this video. But today I want to discuss the most recent chapter of My Hero Academia, manga chapter 286, titled The Ones Within Us. Specifically, I want to talk about the official translations on Shonen Jump. And if you watched my review, you know that most likely I did a review of the stands. So hopefully I will be doing more discussions talking about the actual official translations and different changes in those translations from the official and the unofficial, and what those implications can mean leading later on to the story. So, in this video, there are two key points that I really want to discuss about this chapter in relation to the translations, as well as specific scenes and dialogue said in the official translations that changes up what you would think if you didn't read the official. The two things I want to talk about is whether or not Deku, and even when it comes to Bakugo, if they have had their quirks stolen. And the second thing I want to talk about is when it comes to Natsumuras and the other vestiges that are inside One for All, and what her last statement meant when it came to what she was telling Deku. So first I want to start off with discussing whether or not Bakugo and Deku had their quirks stolen. Because when it came to the unofficial translations, it was very implied that Bakugo had his quirks stolen, but in reality what was being said, and this was all implied by what Deku said to Shigaraki when he bit off those black tendrils that he shot and stabbed Bakugo with. The unofficial translation said that he said to take it back, or in reference to Bakugo's quirk, but when in actuality it was in reference to what Shigaraki was saying about Bakugo and how his death was pointless. So, with that in mind, it still doesn't rule out the possibility that Bakugo did not lose his quirk, but there's a point that I want to bring up when it comes to All For One and how we have so far seen that he has given and taken quirks. And even with Shigaraki, how it appears how the quirk actually works when it comes to taking quirk. Because I believe that in the same vein as when Deku got his quirk from All Might, he was only able to attain it by ingesting the DNA of All Might. And we've seen that this giving of the quirk, it has to be some type of physical giving of the quirk, either by the ingestion of DNA or with the swapping of DNA through a cut, in the same vein that Bakugo received One for All in the My Hero Academia movie of Two Heroes when Bakugo got the quirk from Deku. So it has to be a physical touch, and because All For One and One for All are sort of two sides of the same coin, you can kind of predict and anticipate that that's something similar for how All For One works. And the only times that we've seen a quirk being taken by All For One, or even given by All For One, is when he physically places his hands on his younger brother to give him the stockpiling quirk. And when we saw that in the visions where Deku first saw the first user of One for All in conflict with his brother, how All For One touched the two individuals and was able to take and give quirks at the same time, but he had to be physically touching them. So it's very likely that Shigaraki, now that he has All For One, he has to physically touch someone. And because he now has full control over DK, he can now use All For One to the fullest, but he still has to physically touch someone. And as we've seen in the chapter, he does physically touch Deku. And that may make you think that, okay, Shigaraki has probably taken One For All, but there's still one point of contention against that, and it's the idea that One For All cannot be forcibly taken, but it can be forcefully given. Because going back into manga chapter 59, where we get the discussion between Deku and All Might, when All Might tells Deku about how Stain ate his blood and how Deku may have been concerned about losing one for all at that time, this is when we get the real understanding of sort of kind of how the quirk works. And a good comparison that All Might made is that one for all, it's cannot be forcibly taken, but it can be forcefully given. It's like you're giving someone chocolates. You can just give it to them normally and the other person can accept it, or you can force that chocolate onto them, but they can't just snatch the chocolate away from you. It has to be given to you. So with that idea in mind, I do not think that Shigaraki has one for all yet. And I think that the reason why he doesn't have it yet is because Deku has not willingly given over the quirk to Shigaraki. And this ties into the second point that I want to talk about, is when it comes to the vestiges of Nanashimura and when it comes to her dialogue with Deku, which is different from the unofficial translations. Because the unofficial translations basically said that Nanashimura was going to help Deku in a way to fight back, implying that Deku would be the one fighting against Shigaraki to in this vestige world. But in actuality, what Nanashimura says is this: you can't move in this world yet, so let us handle this. And that is something crucial, because this is the difference between Nanashimura is basically telling Deku, alright, I'm going to help you do this. That is different from what she's saying here, where she's saying we are going to do this. Us are going to handle this. Making most likely reference to the other vestiges inside of One for All. Meaning that Shigaraki at this moment is probably in the process of taking All for One, but there is a way to prevent that from happening by having either Deku or someone fight against it. Ergo, having their will specifically fight against the will of the person trying to take the quirk and nullifying it. Because as we said, One for All cannot be forcefully taken. It can only be forcefully given away. And maybe what this is implying from Nanashimura is that this mental battle will kind of be like that excuse of, well, by fighting mental battle and breaking your will, that would be the equivalent of you forcefully giving it to Shigaraki. So basically, instead of going into this world and Shigaraki just taking it, he beats Deku in this world and is therefore willingly given the quirk because Deku has lost and he's no longer able to consent to it. Maybe. It's very confusing, but all in all, what this is implying is that we are going to see the other previous users of One for All fight in this battle. We're going to most likely see Nanashimura. We're most likely going to see Banjo fight, and we're possibly going to get the first interactions of the fifth user and the fourth user. We're probably going to see them speak. So that's going to be really cool, implying that we're probably going to get more information about the previous users. And we may even get more information about the second and third user. They may be more physical informed because we see that Deku is more physical informed. Even to the point where Nanashimura is literally herself. She's full body Nanashimura, is not really covered by shadows. So all in all, when it comes to this chapter, it is strongly hinting at the fact that All for One cannot just take One for All away from Deku in the same vein as taking away other quirks. He has to go through a more mental battle to get around that stipulation that One for All cannot be forcefully taken, by most likely having Deku's will broken, and with his will broken, Deku may indirectly give All for One, One for All. And the best, another way that I can see this going down is in the fight of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures with Dobby the Gambler's younger brother, and how Jotaro just forced him to kind of admit defeat, without actually saying that he was defeated. As well as with like Darby the Gallows Ware. Basically like being so intimidating and being so fearsome that it makes the individual like, even if it's like for an instant, like think that maybe I should give him the quirk, and then it will be transferred over to Deku. So that's kind of like how I'm feeling with this. So summing it up one more time, Deku hasn't gotten his quirk taken yet, but if he loses his mental battle in his head against One For All and All For One and Shigaraki, then he will lose his quirk, because if he loses his mental battle, then this may be the equivalent of having his quirk forcefully given over to Shigaraki, as well as the implications that we're going to see the other users of One For All fight in this mindscape. What I really hope is going to happen is that it's just going to be all dialogue based. There is obviously most likely going to be some actions, if not in the next chapter, within the next few chapters, but I just really want to see more dialogue between All For One, between Natsumuras, between these other users, and how basically all of these users will know All For One, because most likely than not, All For One is the one that killed all of these previous users of One For All, with the exception of obviously Deku and All Might. So that's all I really have to say on this chapter, as well as like really all of my thoughts about the official versus unofficial translations for this chapter. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. What did you think about this chapter? Do you think that next chapter we're going to see Natsumuras and the other users of One For All fight All For One? Or do you think that All For One actually took One For All away from Deku? Leave your thoughts down below. Like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Big Blue Drew 97, do all of that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next discussion video. Goodbye for now.